Welcome to Mathematical Finance. Today, we are going to explore a fascinating and crucial concept called early exercise. We will discover why patience sometimes pays off and why, in other cases, acting immediately is the most profitable choice you can make. Let us dive into the mechanics of option contracts. Let us start by understanding what early exercise actually means. Imagine holding a special coupon that allows you to buy a television at a massive discount, valid for a whole year. Do you use it now or wait? In finance, an American style option gives you this exact choice. It grants you the right to buy or sell an asset at a fixed price. And unlike European options, you can invoke this right at any time before the contract expires. This act of executing the trade before the final maturity date is what we call early exercise. Now that we know what early exercise is, we must understand the trade-off it creates. Every option's price is made of two distinct parts. First is the intrinsic value, which is the guaranteed cash profit you would get if you forced the trade right now. Second is the time value, which is the extra premium buyers pay for the hope that the stock price will move further in their favor before expiration. When you exercise early, you capture the intrinsic value, but you completely destroy the time value forever. This brings us to a fundamental rule in mathematical finance. It is never mathematically optimal to exercise an American call option on a non-dividend paying stock before its expiration date. If you exercise early, you are forced to hand over your cash today. If you wait, your cash earns interest in the bank and you still hold the right to buy the stock later. Plus, holding the option acts as insurance against a market crash. If you want to cash out, you should always sell the option to another trader instead of exercising it. To prove why selling is better, we first look at the absolute lower bound for the price of a European call option. The formula states that the European call price, C, must be greater than or equal to the current stock price, S0, minus the present value of the strike price. Here, K is the strike price, R is the risk-free interest rate, and T is the time to expiration. Conceptually, the option must be worth at least the stock price minus what it costs to guarantee buying it later. If interest rates or time increase, the present value of the strike decreases, pushing the option's minimum value higher. Building on the European bound, we can establish the lower bound for an American call option, denoted by a capital C. Because an American option gives you all the exact same rights as a European option, plus the added flexibility of early exercise, it must be worth at least as much as the European version. In everyday terms, a product with more features can never cost less than a product with fewer features. Therefore, the American call price must also be greater than or equal to the stock price minus the discounted strike price. This mathematical threshold is key to our upcoming decisions. Before we prove the general rule, let us see this with a concrete example. Suppose you own an American call option on a non-dividend paying stock. The current stock price is 50, your strike price is 40, the interest rate is 5%, and you have exactly 1 year until expiration. First, we calculate the intrinsic value, which is the exact amount of cash you get if you exercise right now. 50 minus 40 gives us 10. This 10 is our baseline. Any alternative choice must yield more than 10 to be considered a better financial decision. Next, we need to find the theoretical minimum price you could sell this option for in the open market. To do this, we calculate the present value of the strike price. We plug our strike price of 40, our interest rate of 5%, and our time of 1 year into the continuous compounding formula. This gives us approximately 38.05. This means paying 40 in 1 year is financially equivalent to paying 38.05 today. Because you get to delay payment when you hold the option, you are effectively saving money. Finally, we substitute this present value back into our American call lower bound formula. We subtract 38.05 from the current stock price of 50. This gives us a minimum market price of 11.95. Since selling the option gives you at least 11.95 and exercising it early only gives you 10, selling is clearly the superior choice. You would be throwing away at least 1.95 of pure time value if you exercised early. This physically interprets why patience pays off. Now that we have used this formula in an example, let us formally prove why this rule always holds true. We are setting out to compare the market value of the option against its immediate exercise value. We know the American call price is bounded below by the stock price minus the discounted strike price. We also know that the intrinsic value, which is the cash you receive from exercising early, is simply the stock price minus the strike price. By comparing these two mathematical expressions, we can definitively show why the market price will always stay above the intrinsic value threshold. To complete the proof, we look closely at the discount factor. Because the interest rate and time to maturity are positive numbers, the exponential discount factor is strictly less than 1. Multiplying the strike price by a decimal less than 1 makes it smaller. Therefore, subtracting this smaller number from the stock price on the left side leaves a larger result. This mathematically guarantees that the option's market value is strictly greater than the cash you would get from exercising it. Hence, selling the option in the market will always yield more money than exercising it early. This concludes our derivation and solidifies the rule. Let us visualize what we just proved. On this graph, the horizontal axis is the stock price and the vertical axis is the call option price. The straight red line represents the intrinsic value, which is what you get if you exercise early. The curved black line represents the American call option price in the open market. Notice how the curved line is always physically higher than the straight line? The gap between them is the time value. This visual makes it incredibly clear why patience and selling the contract are superior to early exercise. While we never exercise a call option early on a non-dividend stock, the rules change completely for put options. A put option gives you the right to sell a stock at a fixed strike price. When you exercise a put, you receive cash today, which you can immediately invest to earn interest. Furthermore, a stock price can only fall to zero. It cannot go negative. If a company goes bankrupt, the put option reaches its absolute maximum possible value. Waiting any longer provides zero additional upside but costs you the interest you could have been earning. To evaluate a put option, we use its intrinsic value formula. The intrinsic value is simply the strike price, K, minus the current stock price, S0. This represents the immediate profit you make by forcing someone to buy the stock from you at the higher strike price when its market value is lower. If the stock price decreases, your intrinsic value increases. But remember, the stock price cannot drop below zero, which caps your maximum possible profit at the strike price itself. This physical boundary is what makes early exercise for puts so unique. Let us see this with a dramatic example. Imagine you own an American put option with a strike price of 50, expiring in 1 year. Suddenly, the underlying company declares total bankruptcy and the stock price instantly drops to zero. The risk-free interest rate is 5%. Should you exercise today or wait until the end of the year? First, we calculate the intrinsic value today. 50 minus 0 gives us exactly 50 in cash right now. This is our immediate payoff. Now we compare this immediate payoff to waiting. Since the stock price cannot drop below 0, the payoff will still be exactly 50 at the end of the year. However, 50 received in 1 year is worth less than 50 received today because you miss out on a full year of 5% interest payments. Waiting has absolutely no benefit and only carries the cost of lost interest. Therefore, exercising this put option early is the mathematically optimal decision. You secure your maximum profit and start earning interest immediately. We have covered a lot of ground today. Remember the three most important ideas. First, early exercise captures intrinsic value but destroys time value. Second, it is never optimal to exercise an American call option early on a non-dividend paying stock. You should always sell it instead. Finally, it can be highly optimal to exercise an American put option early if the stock price falls low enough. Understanding these rules is crucial as the entire framework of modern option pricing relies heavily on checking for early exercise. You have now mastered the fundamentals of this topic.